Good morning, I'm Max Farrell. This is DexTrader.com. Today is July 27, 2018, and this is Trading Live with Max. All right, so here we go. Today is July 27th. It is about 10:19. This morning I came in, and again, I use some news avoidance in trading, okay, especially on the 5-minute signals. And as you can see, starting from about 8:30 in the morning, there was a heavy news cycle that was happening. Lots of movement around, and it really plays out until about 11:30. Well, yeah, I'd say about 11:30. Okay, and then we got the close of the market for the London close. It happens at 12 Eastern time. This is Eastern time. And then we go to about 1 o'clock, and then there's another big set of news and all that stuff, right? And then from 3:30 right around to the end of the day. Okay, not even anything tonight. It all just goes to 3:30. This whole day is sort of because there's no trading tonight, right? After 5 o'clock, there's none. So this day is sort of a wash for me. But I was speaking to a customer, and they're like, there's a whole bunch of news today. What should I do? Well, avoid. Right? Avoidance. But does that mean you can't practice? No, but I don't want you to get set up into that fact. Learn how to read the markets and practice reading the markets, practice reading trend, practice those kind of things. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to kind of look at the way to really depict the trend and when the trend breaks and all that kind of good stuff. Even in this particular market, it's good to learn how to see that, because you can trade the news. You can trade around the news. It's more risky. Okay? But at particular setups, there might be opportunities. But I don't want you to get discouraged when you see arrows get broken or trades not happen. So my biggest advice is to avoid. Now, someone did point out that between 9 minutes now and this 39 minutes, that's a 30-minute window. I could trade that 30 minutes because there's about 6 trades that could happen. And the answer is no. Why? Because you get in here, you need time. You need time to really watch the market and really get on board, right? Don't try to force fit a trade. Now, from this time to the top, to that, just 11:40 to about 12 o'clock, that 12 o'clock hour is a bewitching hour too. I sort of avoid because there's the close of the London market. That's the overlap for the U.S. And then an hour later, boom, there's another USD. So speculate all you want. You can go in there and see if that turns for you, and great, but trade demo. Don't be trading live if you've already established your flow, okay? So I'm basically avoiding today altogether because there's a process that I see that I want my success rate. I'm looking for my consistency. And if I continue to follow my consistent rules and my flow, then I can make the money I can make. Okay? So let's jump over to the 5-minute WB and start looking at levels and let's talk about today trading and finding the trend. Now, if you're watching this and you're on YouTube, and you guys on YouTube, I swear to God, man, you guys are just like you're out the hound and poke and point and all that kind of stuff and speculate and you're a scammer because you don't show me your live account and whatever. Okay, I'm not irresponsible to show you my live account and start fanning dollar bills in front of you. You want to see that stuff? Go look on the internet and go look up all of my competitors. Right? That's what they all do. I don't do that crap. Why? Because I know what I make. I know how much money I can do. And I see that there's hundreds and hundreds of people out there that are being tricked into, going for these shamsters that come in and are like, well, you can make $1,000 a day and let me trade for you and whatever, right? Also, these videos aren't about me trading 50 different signals in an hour and show you how great my system is that I could trade 50 times an hour, because it doesn't. Even though there's a lot of signals, this information is just an indicator. It's a strong trading part of your trading plan. It's not the plan. It is a plan and part of it, but it's not the only thing that's used. You have to use patience. You have to use discipline. You have to use your brain. Okay? You have to get to consistency in order to get to the volume that will make you the money you need per month. And if you can't follow those rules, if you can't follow that process, then move on. But don't sit on my YouTube channel and criticize everything I do, you little troll. All right, move on. Thank you very much. That's my public service announcement. And now you know. All right, so let's talk about that today. Following the trend, seeing when the trend breaks, all that kind of stuff, right? Now, you've probably heard me say before, trend is your friend, of course, but your friends like to lie to you every once in a while, right? So we're looking for the lie. And in the particular case here for the Audi USD, we overall look to see, and we have a nice value trend, right? You don't just scroll back and go, all right, for the last 60 bars, here's the in and here's the out. Yep, that's an uptrend. No, you have to start to dissect it. Now, you can see the overall is the proof is it's an uptrend, right? But then what you want to do is like you want to look in the last 60 bars, 70 bars, 120 bars. You want to get to that point to see, you know, is this overall up, okay? But once you begin to really decipher that, once you do that, now you got to get in and see what the conversation is closer, right? So the last 40 to 60 bars in that point, now you have to really look, right? And what that means is that you have to kind of pull back just a little bit and to see. And watch what happens. We're in an uptrend, so we always want to see higher highs, right? So this here sort of breaks that. Then you get here, sort of reestablishes. Arrow up, yay for us, right? But it's the second arrow up, so we wouldn't have got into a trade, so no trade. Another arrow up, right? And remember, we don't trade the multiple arrows up in an uptrend. We wait for reversal and then up. And then, of course, we got the down arrow here, but it's established now, again, higher highs. And the lower lows are continuing as well and inconsistent, which is good. Now, here right at the end, you can kind of see we did establish a higher high, and as long as we don't pull back lower here and we get an up arrow and it's above this process, this could be a good indication of a setup of a trade. Okay, but what just took me 2 minutes to decipher is what this is in actual time. You could actually then, if the next arrow came up, you could do the trade. Remember, news is not your friend here. Okay, so there's news releasing again here in a few minutes. All right, then we look at the next one, and we pull back a little bit, and we see that it's an overall uptrend, but the real close conversation has established in a different mentality. Why? Because we have up, higher highs, and then we do establish a hump here, and it's a lower high, and another lower high. And usually in a pullback, okay, it will come back down, but it shouldn't break the lower low, right? So here's the low. Here's an established really low. This is all sort of consolidating here this entire time. But learning how to read this in this format, you want nice clear bars. Bars that really are close to each other, you know, that have the same about size. This is a battle going on. This is the beginning of consolidation about to happen. Okay, so we're probably going to consolidate for a little while on the Euro USD. So we know now that, you know, because this is a news set thing that's happening, you know, we're getting some mixed signals in there, right? Same thing on the Great Britain Pound USD cable. Push over, we scroll back just a little bit, we see overall it's an uptrend, but we're looking for the conversation, local conversation now, right? We had the up, but then it broke it right here. Tried to reestablish, but once it reestablishes, you need to have it go through a cycle, which means it's going to continue. You need 2 up bars in its thing, in its direction, and then have a little bit of pullback that establishes, right? But this pullback is establishing. Now, if we get an up arrow here, this is no bueno. You know why? Because it didn't establish higher than the previous high. Okay? And so this means no bueno of a trade. And that's what really important to see this, is that you have to begin to watch the levels that you're working with here, because you're establishing trend, but what you're waiting for is the perfect form, right? Which that the trend is up, is arrows in the direction of the trend, established trend. Remember, this has to be established, and then a pullback, okay? Just a little bit of a pullback that doesn't break the trend, and then the first arrow after those pullback arrows happen that haven't broken the trend to get to this one. And this one has a 90 to 95% success rate. All right? And in some cases, so far for the last 3 weeks, I have 100% going on. Now, I'm not saying I found the Holy Grail. What I'm saying is that I found the holy grail of flow for me, right? The holy grail for flow for me is to wait for an established trend where pullback does not break the trend, and then I wait for the first arrow in that direction, and boom, I smack it. 10 contracts. Now, in your case, when you're first starting out, you're going to do the incremental crawl. And we'll do a webinar here soon on that. But in our case, is that I'm just looking for this process. Now, I get down to the USD JPY, and again, remember, there's news. All this news is happening. So, but I want you to see, looks like an overall, right? The average is downtrend, of course, going down. But the local conversation, the early conversation here, closest conversation, is drastic consolidation, right? Look at this. Consolidate, 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 right? It's all that same level. We don't want to touch this, right? Again, no bueno, no trade. The only one that has anything even remotely close would be the Auto USD, right? Is that right? Yeah, Auto USD. So that's a possibility. But these are the things, and again, here's the beauty part about this, right? If your first rule is establishment of trend, and you get to a pair and it's like, oh, no trend, or that, yes, there's a trend, but there's a setup and you got to wait, then you mark this one out. All right, I'm waiting for that. But when you get to this one and you try to establish trend and there's no trend, you don't have to go to number 2. You don't got to, oh, well, let me check the support and resistance level. No. If it's not an established trend, local trend, then it hasn't reestablished itself and it isn't back into that market, then guess what? Bingo, bango, go to the next one. Save yourself 2 minutes worth of analysis. Same thing. Trend, no. All right, next. Got me? And you know what? I tell you not to go to other pairs to work the markets, and it's true. If you're going to be trading the 4 square, if this is what you're trading, and only trade this. If you start developing and you get antsy and you're trying to find other things, you're trying to force trades and all that kind of nonsense, the Great Britain pound JPY acts so much differently than the USD JPY. I mean, so much differently. And the USD CAD is another type of pair, like the AUD USD. It's a commodity pair. Okay, so it acts very frugal and very weird at times, right? It could be adjusted and crazed out by oil prices, right? Where Auto USD could be affected and mess with gold prices. And even some of its own countries on the Audi side could be affected by its sugar and I think wool and a whole bunch of other commodities that you may not even know. Whereas the Euro USD, the Great Britain Pound USD, and USD JPY are really subject to that USD, but they're really hard to be affected other than at their own economy. So keep that in mind. Get to use these first 4 pairs in the 4 square. Use those to death. And then when you get time, if you want to trade, you're trading, let's just say you're trading live on these 3 or 4 pairs, and you got nothing for that afternoon, nothing's lined up, everything's like in consolidation, check one of the other hard pairs and see. All right, let's just look at this pair here. This is the Great Britain Pound JPY. And it has good establishment. I quickly look at it and I see that if I pull back just a little bit, I can see that the last 60 bars is in an uptrend, right? A pretty powerful uptrend. And we have this, but then we have all these little micro runs here, right? That you can kind of see, boom, 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 as it goes down, then it reestablishes. But the overall reestablishment is a high, right? This pullback did not break the trend because it would have broke it here and established a new high. Pullback didn't break the trend and then establishing new highs as we go. So this one would be pretty good, that after these 3 down bars, if we had an up bar at this point, this would be a cha-ching. This is where we establish trend. There's no support and resistance that looks like it could be broken from that point. So 2 SR would be good. So check, check. 3. Once the arrow establishes in that direction, we would then find a price to get onto. Now, what price would I use? In this particular case, if it's a high news day, so those kind of things, I would probably look for an established low or high that's close within the statement. Remember, Nadex gives us 5 statements, right? And those 5 statements all have prices to them. They're probably about 2 pips apart, right? So if this one's sitting at, let me just establish this right. So if this one's sitting at 145, say 61, then this one would be 145, 59, and 57, and then 55 and 53, right? And these would be all the established, has to be better than whatever time it is, 1040, right? And this would be, how it would come over, okay? And once it does that, if I would go down and I would look for something that, if I had to tighten, if my arrow is really super tight, like some of these are really super tight, would you come to the, arrow? Like if the arrow is right here, would I come to the arrow here? Now there's no support and resistance, so I would look for something that would be, like 55, which would have been the very last statement that I just erased, right? So it would be 145.55. And what I would wait was that if that arrow came up and it had just a little bit of pullback, it could go on and win if there was no price. Now remember, shopping the price on Nadex is a whole nother animal, but we're just talking about trend today. And we're looking at this establishment, right? Now, the other here is that with this higher high pullback, I really want to see if I get an arrow. I would love to see it. I would love to see this price be up here, above this high, because this has then established the new high again, right? This has established a clear trend heading up here in this little micro trend because of news, but I would really want to see this price above that previous high. All right, well, I don't want to babble on all day long about establishing the trend. You guys got a good feel for establishing trend, and we can go from that point on. But the concept here is try not to trade during news, establish your availability to trade, and be consistent. I hope you had a great week. I had a super week in the live trade side, as well as in demo and practicing and bringing on people. If you want to buy into this network, use the max offer prices all the way good until Sunday night, which is July 29th. And it's basically $50 off a month, and you get to establish yourself as a trader and have access to me, and be a part of the webinars, and also possibly even get a chance to join our crew in this process, where you would get your systems for free for helping us train other people. All right, I'm Max Farrell. This is Dex Trader. I look forward to seeing you next time, and as always, trade well.